The young Shu, along with the powerful Shadow Blue Dragon, continues his adventures, accompanied by his team of Shadow users. Finding himself in the midst of a planetary war, he fights off Nene's troops, getting even closer to having the fated meeting with the evil mastermind himself. The Jibral soldiers, along with their allies, continue to fight off the Gran Kingdom's army, turning the tide of the battle via an aerial attack. Jibral's Knightmaster Conrad L. Lawrence charges head-on at the enemy. Meanwhile, Shu and his party arrive at Gran Kingdom's capital, the city, wondering how they will get in. Jiro is enraged as he reminisces about the kingdom's attack on his hometown of Bouqet. Led by the robotic general Sabo, this army was responsible for killing Jiro's family. Zula snaps him out of his thoughts while Kluke tries to comfort him. However, Jiro is determined to either kill Nene or be killed trying. As this is going in, Nene's forces begin to move. They are headed to battle against Jibral and allies, creating an opportunity for Shu and his party to infiltrate Nene's base. Meanwhile, war wages on between the two forces. Just as the tides begin to turn in Jibral's favor, reinforcements arrive, led by General Logi, and the Gran Kingdom starts to push back. Over at the city, Nene is aware of Shu's group as General Sabo prepares to intercept them. As Zola moves through Nene's castle along with everyone, she gets awfully suspicious at the security being non-existent. Moments later, the group arrives inside a laboratory and are greeted by General Sabo, confirming her suspicions. The general demonstrates his evil plan for the group, showing entrapped children whose shadows Nene is using for power, proclaiming that the machine works flawlessly. Sabo reveals that this is the reason they demolish cities in their wake, angering Jiro. Getting provoked, Jiro powers up and charges at Sabo, but it is a trap. The latter captures him and begins to drain his powers. The general then commands his robot army to take down the group of kids. Shu and Zola bring out their shadows, Blue Dragon and Killer Bat fighting back fiercely. Sabo shrewdly uses Jiro as a hostage, forcing Zola and Shu to stop their onslaught. Just then, furious at his powerlessness, Jiro charges up. His power is too much for the general's device and it explodes, freeing him, bringing out his Minotaur shadow. Jiro slashes Sabo's robotic body into pieces. Having his revenge, the group is relieved and marches on. Finally, they arrive at the castle's throne room where Nene is waiting for them. In the battle between Gran Kingdom and the Jibral Alliance, the former continues to gain the upper hand, outnumbering their foes by 10 times. Back to Zola and company, Shu and Marumaro get provoked by Nene and activate their shadows, attacking him with both Saber Tiger and Blue Dragon. The two get frustrated as Nene dodges all their attacks, even without getting out of his chair. Jiro joins the fight with his Minotaur and the three combo their attacks to try to damage Nene, finally making him get out of his seat as he charges an attack in Marumaro's face. In the meantime, the damage caused by the battle reveals a terminal. Zola tells Kluke to figure out an escape route using it. Relieved that she is of some use after all, the latter begins to do so. Back over to the fight, Nene has neutralized Marumaro and has stopped Shu and Jiro in their tracks using his anti-shadow vacuum. Left with no options, Zola tries to stall the evil mastermind as Kluke tries to figure out the escape terminal. As this is going on, Bouqet turns invisible and tries to rescue Shu. However, Nene stops her in her tracks, destroying the terminal as well, and then begins to anger Zola, using her past and father's death in a provocative manner. Zola brings out Killer Bat to attack Nene, but he remains unfazed. The latter then goes to hurt Kluke. Bouqet stands in the way, protecting her friend and getting severely injured in the process. Seeing her friends get hurt while protecting her, Kluke contemplates her powerlessness. Zola refuses to stand as well and brings out her full power. Nene responds and brings out his shadow, Chimera, as well. The battle is completely one-sided and Zola ends up bested. As Nene is about to finish her off, Kluke can no longer bear her powerlessness and stands in the way of his attack. Suddenly, she awakens her own shadow power, Phoenix. Nene is caught off guard, but launches his gravity ball attack at Kluke, knocking her unconscious. However, before disappearing, Phoenix fulfills her wish and teleports the entire group out of harm's way. Everyone except Kluke awakens and sees Nene ascending to the flying fortress Galleon, announcing his rule over the entire world. The evil mastermind demonstrates his power, easily wiping out a major part of the Jibral Alliance's forces. General Logi of the Gran Kingdom army gets briefed about the Jibral army's retreat, as well as the defeat of Zola and the Shadow Wielders. He doubts that to be the case, but concludes that Nene's power must be too great. The general then takes his forces to sniff out the retreating Jibral troops. Elsewhere, Shu and Ko are worried about Kluke, who still hasn't woken up, The former is mad at himself for being unable to protect her, while lashing out at Zola for letting Kluke get involved. Meanwhile, Jiro is untrusting of Zola, inquiring her about her true intentions. He blames her for knowing Nene's power and, despite it, still taking the group headfirst into his castle. Over with Nene, his right-hand man, General Sabo, is back in tip-top form as he begins heading towards Jibral. Back with the Shadow Wielders, Bouqet worries about Zola as she feels that the defeat hurt her the most. In the meantime, Shu and Jiro get into a brawl over the former's self-loathing and the latter's happy-go-lucky attitude at this time. The two throw each other around and argue over their feelings. Just then, a mysteriously cloaked figure wanders there, getting chased by Nene's forces. Zola saves him and takes care of the forces. This mystery man is then revealed to be General Legolas, who has risked his life to give them new information about the theft of the extra 7. The man who stole these, that is the last 7 pages of the book of the beginning, was a spy named Salinas. However, he was later killed by a blue-eyed female assassin. Zola remarks that these lost 7 pages contain information about the 7 Shadow Wielder. As such, it might also contain some clues to strengthen the group's shadows to defeat Nene, being descendants of the 7 soldiers. The group renews their vow to get stronger and defeat the evil mastermind, with the only regret that Kluke isn't there with them. Just then, she wakes up as the group, especially Shu, rejoices. Shu and Co arrive at the logic of the Metea Republic, city of books and wisdom. They head to the National Library where a copy of the Book of the Beginning is kept. Zola brings out the book for the group to see and starts explaining. It tells of a story right after the world's creation. The humans pleaded to God, "We can't sleep in a world as dazzling as this." To fulfill their request, God created darkness and along with it, shadows. After some time, the fighting between the forces of light and darkness took place. Darkness was about to be triumphant, but was stopped in its tracks by the 7 soldiers of light. Zola tells the group that through her travels around the world, she has concluded that they are the descendants of these 7 soldiers. Meanwhile, Jibral's forces are planning its next move as Nene's flying fortress arrives there, causing destruction in its wake. Back over to Shu's group, Zola informs them about the law created by the king of Jibral 700 years ago. Under this law, no one is to read the Book of Beginning in its entirety, except those permitted by the king himself. Kluke notes that Chapter 7 of the book has its text cut off as it begins to talk about the shadows. This leads Zola to remark that the lost information might be the key to figuring out the secrets of the shadows, including the way to either seal them or increase their power. After getting to know all this, the group's members head their own way for a bit of rest. Kluke is with Jiro, Marumaro is with Bouqet, and Shu and Zola are on their own. As he stands in the wasteland, Shu brings out Blue Dragon and inquires about his purpose to fight. Receiving no answer just then, Nene's forces start attacking the city. With a newfound resolve, Shu and Co vow to protect the world from Nene's forces and fight off the attackers. Elsewhere, General Logi realizes that he was right all along, at the Shadow Wielders not going down so easily. Shu's group, along with General Legolas, comes to the city of Corin to meet the monster informant, Master Homeron. Upon meeting him, they inquire about the blue-eyed woman who killed Salinas. The informant tells them that the country of Jibral disappeared without a trace a few days ago, much to their shock. However, later they find out that despite telling the truth, the old man isn't the original Homeron. The original Homeron the Great died serving under Conrad in the war against Gran Kingdom. After visiting his grave, the group heads to town to raise money for their future plan to hire a good informant in Homeron's place. Shu separates from the group to kill the fearsome monster Gygaurus. The rest go to the fishing spot to have some fun as they earn the required amount. Afterwards, one of the fake Homeron's assistant takes Shu to the lair of the monster Gygaurus. As he reaches an underground cave, Shu, with his blue dragon, gets attacked by the monster. At first, he gets overpowered by Gygaurus. However, Shu tells himself that if he cannot defeat this monster, he will never be able to defeat Nene. Enraged at this thought, Shu releases an unbelievable amount of power, putting down the monster for good. On his way back, Shu sees struggling kids whose parents died fighting against Nene. He gives them over to the kids instead. Elsewhere, Zola doesn't believe that Homeron is actually dead and heads to his grave. There, the group finds out that the fake Homeron's assistant, woman, was the real Homeron all along. Having witnessed their resolve to fight, he decides to help them find the blue-eyed woman. Meanwhile, Marumaro has gotten separated from the group, finding himself at an unknown location. Losing Shu and the others on his way back to town, Marumaro arrives at an inn. There, he is treated with hospitality by the suspicious innkeeper at first. However, when Marumaro sees his wife, he denies her existence and then poisons his food. It is revealed that the wife is the innkeeper's shadow, and that they try to kill Marumaro because the two think he is from the Gran Kingdom. The innkeeper had deserted the kingdom's forces to try to spend the rest of his days in peace and is wanted by them. Suddenly, Marumaro awakens, revealing that he knew something was up with the food and didn't eat it. The innkeeper and his shadow, that is his wife, apologize to him. Just then, a Gran Kingdom captain shows up to the inn along with his troops. They treat them with kindness to not get found out, giving them food and shelter, after which the captain and his troops go to sleep. The innkeeper and his shadow see Marumaro's wanted poster with a huge bounty on the captain's note and plan on turning him in. On it, they also see the former's drawing, as well as the wife's badly drawn face. She makes a fuss over it, cussing out the captain for such an ugly drawing. This angers the captain, making him attack them with his troops. However, Marumaro arrives just in time, as the innkeeper comes clean about their earlier plan. The former doesn't mind and defends them from the attackers, sending the captain and his troops packing using his saber tiger. After bidding farewell to the innkeeper and his wife, Marumaro meets up with his worried friends. Elsewhere, Homeron is hard at work trying to find information about the blue-eyed woman. The end for now. Thanks for watching. If you like this recap, please consider to like and subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell to be notified of any new recaps. And while you're at it, check out this new anime recap appearing on the screen.